accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of at a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's been the victim,
right,
or the man has been the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I am Takia Thompson, your host for our Talk It Out Tuesday show. Now, concerns are growing over reports of increasing criminal activity in rural and coastal communities across Trinidad and Tobago. Let's address this in our Community Corner segment. The TTPS recently warned that areas once considered quiet and isolated are no longer immune from crime as criminals adapt their strategies and target vulnerable communities. However, Administrator of the Neighborhood Crime Watch, Darren Carmichael, says that crime itself has no limits. He joins us this morning to discuss the changing crime landscape, the challenges facing residents, and the role communities must now play in protecting themselves. Good morning, Mr. Carmichael.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Lovely having you here with us. Now, would you say you agree with the TTPS that rural communities are now seeing more criminal activities?
Well, there has been an increase in criminal activity, and think of it like this. The police is applying pressure. They are doing more advanced type of work. Yeah. They're becoming more involved in terms of suppressing the criminal activity throughout. And if you were to have a balloon, a blown balloon, and you squeeze one end or the center, what happens is the air doesn't go anywhere, it just goes somewhere else, yeah. Right? So crime is like that. Once you put pressure on crime, it goes, mushrooms, balloons somewhere else. And criminals are getting smarter. What they do is they move out of the hot zones, even when they are being targeted. So the reprisal type killings and so on. Right. These criminals would move into isolated rural areas by a family or something, And what happens is they don't stop their criminal activity. So their comrades visit them there, they still mount and stage exercises from there, that type of thing. So of course, rural communities and areas like that, or areas that are not accustomed having that kind of crime, you will see some element of it springing up, mushrooming, ballooning in those areas. All right, so it's not unlikely. What of course it calls for is that the citizens, residents in these areas need to be mindful. People who are renting properties need to be mindful of strangers coming in for short periods of time, that type of thing, and of course the type of activity that accompanies their arrival.
Now, would you tie this in from your perspective, the factors that contributes to criminals targeting smaller or coastal communities?
Well, it's just opportunistic crime most of the time.
Okay.
So you find that unless something is specific and they want to go into an area, what happens is, okay, so for instance, the criminals know that somebody's leaving a bank with cash. You know, they may observe them in the banking hall, observe them get into the vehicle, leave the car park, and follow for the first opportunity to strike. As we've heard, some people stop at, you know, a restaurant, some people stop in the supermarket, some stop for doubles with cash in the vehicle. So what happens is, think of you leaving a banking hall or whatever it is. You may be leaving an ATM. You may have earned winnings at a casino, which is a popular one. Or you may have a business. A lot of, you know, since COVID, a lot of people have had cash-rich businesses operating out of their homes. So home invasions, of course, is a natural follow-through. If you have a lot of cash in your home, people come, they buy things, they pay, and they, you know, or you pay in a white van, and you drive your white van back home after a day's take. Then, of course, the cash is there with you if they're observing you, right? So a lot of people may follow persons, and they may follow them into rural areas, you know, because the first opportunity is where they stop, where they rest, and it might be at home. So there are a number of contributing factors to why that may be possible. And of course, rural areas gives the criminal what they like, the opportunity to strike.
Right.
So the distance between one house and the next might be a ways apart, so therefore there may be no witnesses close by. The lighting may not be perfect in these areas. So there are a number of contributing factors other than, and of course, the geography of some rural areas give police a difficulty in terms of the response time. Right? I know that there are some police stations stretch, you know, a huge, vast areas and so on. When you think of rural areas of where the police station is, as opposed to where somebody may live. So the geography as well is you know, causes some problem with respect to response and so on.
And now Superintendent Richard Christopher said criminals are now studying vulnerabilities in these areas. From your perspective, you mentioned some, but maybe elaborate and pinpoint it a bit better. What kind of weaknesses are they taking advantage of?
Right. Well, one of the first things that we can speak of very early is that there might be a lot of complacency. You know, we are in a rural area, there's no crime here, you can leave your doors, your windows open. You know, we have that fallacy sometimes. And so the level of awareness that is expected, you know, I administrate a number of neighborhood watch groups throughout the country, in Trinidad and Tobago. And I can tell you that there are a lot of people who live under the assumption that it's safe here. It has always been, even gated communities, as you know, there have been instances within gated communities. So there's this false sense of we're safe. It ain't gonna happen here kind of thing, right? And of course, that's one of the key things. The level of awareness that persons have in terms of, you know, they've not been trained or schooled in terms of, am I being followed? Is this a genuine distraction to make me look this way while they do something that way? You tend to know everybody in the area, so you're very comfortable with the fact that you know everybody living in here, but there are strangers coming in, people moving down the street, someone passing through, there are sightseers that come into some area just to look, you know, look around and so on. And of course, like I said, there are a number of people who operate these cash-rich businesses at home, and there are a lot of people come in, customers, that you don't know where they came from. And they make observations, they see how you live, how you know, that type of thing. So the things that you want to look at to counter some of these things is look at your lighting in the streets, look at the vegetation, the way, environmental design has a lot to do with preventing criminal activity.
Right.
So we're talking about bushes, shrubs, trees, derelict vehicles parked in the area, abandoned homes, overgrown grass and other areas. But I did mention lighting.
Yes.
Things like leaving ladders on the side of your home, which is unsecured. Somebody could use it to get up to the balcony that you might feel safe and leave it open at night, So there are a number of contributing factors, and of course the basic things like alarms and camera systems.
Of course.
Rural areas are not immune, so you can install alarms and camera systems. A lot of persons are actually installing community-type camera systems as well, so that the entire community could look at some of these cameras. So I could go on and on, but you get it just. There are a number of things that we do in these, if you want to think of urban areas, that are also equally important in rural communities.
And would you say you've noticed any changes in the types of crimes being reported in, communities like Toko or Matura or any other rural districts?
Yeah, there is the notion that, like I said, the types of crime that we have been exposed to, the home invasions and some of the type of robberies and so on, rural areas have always been targeted for predial larceny, right? As crime evolves, you want to go after the cash that the farmer makes now. Right. You want to go after, whatever goods and chattels the person may have in terms of a vehicle, equipment people steal as well, right? So these are really opportunistic crimes, and rural areas are not immune. We are seeing more and more, and we are hearing more and more of potential instances. And again, there's a simple equation: motive plus opportunity equals crime. And that simply means that there are a lot of people out there running around with the mindset to commit crime, with the means, with the resources to commit crime. And if not for the opportunity, it will be in their head.
Wow.
It will be in their mind.
Yes.
They may have the goods and the guns and everything else. But what they do, they drive around, they look, they observe, and they're waiting for that opportunity to strike. We as citizens, residents within communities, have to understand that we must and continue as much as possible to use every opportunity to remove that potential incident, that potential opportunity.
Yes.
So it speaks to us being aware, it speaks to lighting, it speaks to the way we operate when we move in, when we drive in. Leaving your home open now is no longer safe. All right, so mindset has to shift. And of course, the police is there to support, so no community is safe unless they partner and work together with the police to deal with the crime situation that exists.
Absolutely. And how important is community vigilance in preventing crime before it even escalates?
Well, I like to speak about being vigilant, and I use the right word. Some people put an E on it and say vigilante. So nothing that we speak about in Neighborhood Watch speaks to vigilante kind of justice, picking up a baseball bat and jumping in the back of a pickup with two neighbors and you ride in, right? So we want people to operate, but operate from the safety of their homes, all right? We want people to be observant, but be observant from the safety of their homes, all right? So what we need to do is be the eyes and ears of not just the community, but we need to be the eyes and ears of law enforcement. Right? You've made an investment. That home is now, what might have been 500,000 years ago, is now 2-point-something million, is 1-point-something million. And to most people, that is their legacy to hand down to their children and their children's children and so on, right? So we have to now put a little bit more emphasis on what we do to protect that legacy, to protect that asset, all right? And I'm talking about protection from the point of just simple observations, being wary of what you do, taking the steps and the initiatives to make your home a harder target to criminals. And harder simply means, crime like running water. I like to use these little additives, right? Crime like running water follows the path of least resistance. It's simple. So if you think of a river, a river normally would meander and come downstream and reach its destination. Crime is the same. And if we don't put impediments in the way of crime, it's going to keep going and going and going and going. So the lighting is an impediment.
Yes.
Being aware and alert is an impediment. Wow. Recognizing suspicious behavior and activity is an impediment. Coming together as a community and working together in neighborhood watch is an impediment. Partnership with the police is an impediment. You understand? Yes. So as many of these things that we can do to prevent and deter criminal activity, the safer communities will be. So as simple as that. You know?
And along those lines as well, can you share a bit on how effective neighborhood watch groups and community patrols is when it comes to deterring the crime in the communities?
From where I sit, I've been doing this for 26 plus years. And everywhere neighborhood watch groups have been established, crime automatically goes down.
Wow.
So everything I've said speaks to what we train. So in a neighborhood watch group meeting, you would learn what are the basic tenets of neighborhood watch. And that's simply neighbor looking after neighbor, right? I think in Sesame Street, there was a song, Who are the people in your neighborhood? Remember that song? In your neighborhood. You know, they're the people that you meet when you're walking down the street. They're the people that you meet each day. Wow, and those people, you know, that simple element came about when homegrown terrorism was on the rise in the USA.
Right.
And they used Sesame Street as a launch pad to raise awareness as to we need to know who these masked men are. Who are these people in our neighborhood? You know, who's my neighbor? I need to, you know, be friends, you know, build a relationship, you know, break bread together, whatever you need to do to get to know who your neighbors are. Because if you know who your neighbors are, it's easier to spot the odd man out, the suspect, the strange vehicle, the strange persons, right? So we encourage people first in neighborhood watch to come together as a unit. And of course, now not everybody is not all inclusive, right? So you find that there are some people who have nefarious criminal type activity. You would know the police always kicking down the door every Monday morning, you know, that type of thing. It's not necessarily the guy who just blasts the music loud on a Sunday morning when they're trying to rest. That's somebody else, right? But certainly the criminal element, you would know them. A lot of communities know them. So what they're able to do, they're able to form these neighborhood watch groups quite effectively, build out the WhatsApp chats and so on, and you leave the criminal house out. They are okay with it because they know that they don't want to be on your WhatsApp chat. You don't want them there. They don't need to be there either, right? So it's not all inclusive. We selectively pick these law-abiding residents, bring them into a group, and we communicate, we share information, we look at suspicious vehicles, suspicious activity, we raise alerts, we blow the air horn, that type of thing, right? So there's a whole a set of activities surrounding neighborhood watch. And of course, when you have this vibrant, active group present, crime has nowhere to go there, right? So that is the deterrent, the number one deterrent, because they spot these behaviors early. They, you know, it's like raising an alarm and say, pull the children inside, lock your doors, until the dust settles and these criminal, you know, whatever is brewing dissipates. All right? And that's really what neighborhood watch is. That constant movement is is an active thing. We are very intentional in what we do and how we train, so that we become the eyes and ears of law enforcement. We become a support to law enforcement. Because really, when you look at it, the police really can't be everywhere at once. There's just not enough for them to go around. And we have to be fair in our judgment of the police and the police service. All right? So we as citizens have a role to play in policing ourselves, in ensuring that the criminals have nowhere to hide, in calling out that behavior and letting them know, hey, this have no place in our community. That's really what neighborhood watch does. So it's safe and it works, you know, like Crime Stoppers.
Yeah, definitely. And along those same lines, would you say residents, well, you said, you know, you guys are the eyes and ears for even the law enforcement, but is it the case where residents do feel this is happening and they can cooperate with the law when suspicious activity is reported, or is there some sort of fear still preventing some persons from speaking up?
I mean, when you look in communities and from our interaction and so on, there is and there may be continue to be the fear of crime, right? And the fear of crime is real, because a lot of people seeing what is happening, and you know, the first thing is, boy, I don't want it to happen by me. I need to fiercely protect my family and so on. And it's a real concern. Crime Stoppers has been an opportunity where the criminal element really, they have nowhere to hide, because we have provided a respectful, safe, anonymous platform for persons to report crime, report what they know.
Yeah.
Right? So 800 tips, 800-8477. There's an app called P3 Tips, P as in Papa, and 3 as in the number 3 tips. You can download it on the Android, the iOS platform. And there's also a website at crimestopperstt.com, right? So in that website, there's a tip portal where you can also safely, anonymously report what you know. Right? So those are 3 avenues. And of course, with Crime Stoppers, you get an opportunity to get a reward. But hear this. Over the years, and as the neighborhood watch groups have developed, we have built a bridge and a proper relationship with police, always. So no neighborhood watch group exists without the partnership and the relationship with the police. So in most groups, the police, the station commander, the inspector, that type of rank, they are also on the neighborhood watch chats. So you find that they are in the thick of things, they get all the information firsthand, and most of them would respond and communicate to say, listen, I see this, send in a patrol. It doesn't replace a 999 call for an emergency.
Right.
But certainly with the police on the same platform like you, you tend to be a bit more, liberal in terms of sharing and helping and building that relationship. So we have sort of or worked towards developing that trust in the police and the public. And the police has been doing an excellent job in terms of helping foster that relationship, in terms of their responsiveness and so on. So yes, there will still be the fear of crime and the fear of talking directly with the police. Right. But more and more I'm seeing as we advance into these, into this century, in 2026 and onward, the police is really living up to that role of being there for the citizens. All right. So from where I sit, there are town meetings that collaborate with the that's one of these meetings that statement was made.
Yes.
There's the station council meeting where once every month the police have what you call a station council meeting. The clergy, schools, taxi drivers, farmers, normal citizens, neighborhood watch groups, captains and so on, all attend these meetings. Because what it does is once every month you get an opportunity as a resident within a district to tell the police how you want to be policed, to get information about who's in and out of jail, what kind of crimes, what type of cars are being stolen, what is happening in your neck of the woods. So it's important to be part of that kind of communication so that you're informed, right? So, I mean, that to me has been very effective in helping bridge that gap. That mystery, it demystifies, a lot of us have had a bad experience with the police 20 years ago, hand me down from your parents and so on, and you just develop that as an adult now. The neighborhood watch, the station council meetings, attending these town meetings and police walkabouts and so on, demystifies the role of the police. It brings them into a different light, and I think every citizen needs to experience that.
And now, what practical steps can you leave us with, families and homeowners can take to better secure their properties?
Well, what I would think, first of all, there's some introspection, all right? Before we look at the community and what it gives off, you need to look at your own home first. I will say look at your doors, your locks, your windows. Are they adequate? Now, when you think about rural areas, some people still envision louver glass, those louvers you could just bend back the thing and pull it out, right? Some people still envision the union key. You may not know what that is. You see a smile? The key, that's the kind of key when you, from the outside, you could just take a pin, turn it around till you straighten it, and you push it out. But you don't push it out, you put a piece of gazette paper from outside first, so it falls on the gazette paper and you pull it under the door. That's the kind of keys we had a long time. Some people still have those locks today, right? So I'm not making fun of it because sometimes the economy has us where we are, right?
Yes.
But we're in a time now where we have to look seriously as the kind of doors, the locks, the windows we have. We have to look at lighting. We have to look at the shrub and the greenery around the home. Because, criminals like rats and rodents, I don't say criminals are rats and rodents, but like rats and rodents, they like dirty, dingy looking places. They like to go into areas where they feel nobody taking this area seriously. And if your neighborhood looks like that and feels like that when you pass through it, then you're going to encourage that kind of behavior. Because if you think of the abandoned home that they used to go and smoke weed, to go and lime, hide the guns, hide the drugs. If you think of the derelict vehicles that parked up all over streets and bring a whole aesthetic, a negative aesthetic feel, what we're asking you to do in these communities is make the place look light and bright. right? But start with your home. So around your home, you clean it up. You know that Zephyr, you will know that is either. But as a make of a car back in the 80s, right? So you know, if you have an old vehicle, nobody was, give it away, get rid of it, clean it up. You know, the pile of sand, the old, you know, the junk that you see around homes and so on.
Right.
Don't just wait till Christmas to clean up. Let it be all year. So if you make the place light and bright and bring out, you know, change the atmosphere, the criminals don't see it as an easy target, as a soft target anymore. Right? They say that, hey, these people care about the neighborhood, so they probably have good security in place. That's just how the criminal will think, right? So they leave you and they take better pickings next door. They will go somewhere else, right? So we want to be able to spruce up the area, make it look light and bright. Start with your home first. Then, of course, you look at your own self-awareness. Am I being followed? Some people leave the gate open. They come home and they drive inside and they offload the couple of grocery bags, but they're going back out the road just now, so they leave the gate wide open. If you're the only gate wide open on the street, when the suspects pass in looking for the opportunistic crime, remember, you know, we have to remove the opportunity from the equation. And if removing the opportunity means closing that gate behind you, even if you're going 10 minutes later. If it means pulling things, you know, don't leave the bicycle outside, don't leave the scooter where people could see it, don't leave the doors open and the windows open or the handbag on the seat. All of these things that we do that we need to really stop. Take a hard look and recognize that, you know, if these bags, these shopping bags looking attractive to you, they look attractive to the criminal. Right? So we need to keep removing those opportunities. The sporting the gold chain, the expensive jewelry, the snatch and grab, the handbag or the purse exposed, you know, that type of thing. There's a lot of activity that we need to take stock of. And you know, today is not even safe to have a hammock on their home anymore. A lot of people do their washing outside, you know, under the homes in these rural areas. They cook outside under the house, you know, that type of thing. And you know, while that is how we live, or still live, you know, the criminal elements, they see somebody there, they know that the door is open to allow them in. Right? Or the child playing, they know that the door is open to facilitate the child playing outside. Right? So unfortunately, it sounds, you know, it may sound like I'm telling you, it ain't safe to be outside anymore. It's not safe to be in your own gallery anymore. All right? But understand this, the criminals are looking, they're thirsty, they're hungry. Wherever the police put a dent in crime, they are targeting and disrupting, dismantling their operation, their livelihood, because they have no intention of working an honest day in their lives. Right? So as their livelihoods are disrupted, they have to find another way to make a dollar. Right? And unfortunately, we are it. Right? We are the softer targets when you look at how banks and buildings and other places have invested in security. Right? They have to make the dollar through us.
Well, thank you, Darren. I know time is getting away from us, and this conversation is, you know, it's really important that we get to sit and have these conversations, let the public know what's going on and how to even better protect themselves, being aware, you know, trying to eliminate that opportunity. As you said, motive plus opportunity equals crime. So once we can be aware of what's happening, firstly in our homes and then in our surroundings, where we are more vigilant to the community and we set up these things, in collaboration with the law enforcement, of course, we can see a turnaround where crime is. So thank you so much for coming on this morning and being a part of the conversation and giving your insights. It was very informative, very insightful for what you had to share with us this morning. Guys, we are about to take a short break, and when we come back, we have more engaging conversations, so stay with us.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Hi, I am Emiliana Beechan and I am a mental health and conflict resolution consultant. Welcome to Mind Matters, the show where we explore the intricate world of mental health and the art of conflict resolution. Join us as we hear from mental health professionals, conflict resolution experts, and everyday people who have transformed their lives through understanding and communication. Mind Matters, WESN Content Capital.
In Trinidad and Tobago, cervical cancer still remains a serious health problem, ranking the 3rd most frequent cancer among women in this country.
So you may be happily at home not knowing you might have the early signs or the early stages of cervical cancer. So the first thing is that it can be completely without any symptoms or signs.
Are you driven, ambitious, and ready to earn? WESN, the content capital, is expanding, and we're looking for dynamic media sales executives to join our team. Sell powerful advertising solutions across television, digital, and social media platforms, and help brands tell their story. If you have strong communication skills, a passion for sales, and the drive to succeed, join WESN today. Send your CV to marketing@wsncc.com or WhatsApp 68-61662 and start building your future.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing@wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Welcome back. Shifting gears to our Ask the Experts segment, concerns continue to grow over increasing incidents of violence, aggression, and indiscipline in schools across Trinidad and Tobago. Education Minister Dr. Michael Dolat says while the revised National School Code of Conduct provides an important framework for discipline and accountability, addressing behavioral challenges among students will require support from parents, educators, counselors, and communities. This morning, psychiatrist Dr. Varma Dayal Singh joins us to examine psychological factors driving disruptive behavior in classrooms and what interventions may help students before situations escalate. Good morning, Dr. Varma.
Good morning.
So, from a psychological perspective, what are some of the main factors contributing to behavioral problems among students today?
Well, when you look at schools and you look at violence in schools, it's a issue that have been plaguing Trinidad and Tobago for years. I remember it was in 1989, the NAR government had the minister Clive Pantin, and actually Anthony Garcia was the head of tutor, and he later went on to be the Minister of Education. And they had what you call a national consultation on violence and in the schools. And so it was a problem that was well known, well ventilated, and we looked at the core causes. And even after that, when Hazel Manning was Minister of Education, years later, she had what you call a violence preventative academy, where experts came in, psychologists came in from the United States, looking at the root causes. And when we look at it, we realize that behavior and aggression and violence in children, it's something we look at. A child is really, when you look at a child is born with a clean slate of mind. A child doesn't have any idea of, I am going to be aggressive and violent. But what that child is exposed to, what that child is seeing in their homes, what that child is seeing in the community, even the culture in the school, that now will now influence that child. And so, for instance, so a child may be looking on at violence in the home, domestic violence, coming out of their yard and seeing violence in the community, gangsterism, shooting, and that child now may even now realize that, hey, this is what I'm learning, how to survive. So therefore, behavior, aggression, violence could be really something what we call the social learning theory. And there was a famous psychologist who actually did an experiment with what he called Bobo dolls, where you had these dolls that could wobble, and adults were beating up the dolls and having consequences, and adults were beating up the dolls and having no consequences. And 4-year-olds were, I think it was 36 of them, in that experiment, they followed the adults. So we have to appreciate that behavior is sometimes a learned sort of an event that can happen, how we structure that mind, what we put into that mind, what that child will realize that I am learning to be violent because I'm seeing it. So we have that social learning that is there, as well as other factors too, because some children may be, if you look at children, even in a household, some kids are more introverted, some are more extroverted, some are more aggressive. So sometimes the innate nature of that child when he's born could also influence that behavior of that child. So we have to recognize, we have to now try to curb those behaviors. And this is where we have challenged now, how to get that child to recognize he has a problem and see how we could move around that child into curbing that aggression and violence that could be portrayed in schools.
Now, the Education Minister noted an increase in incidents happening during class time with teachers present. How or what does this suggest about students' emotional and behavioral state?
Well, again, it shows that the children, you know, if you find that there were police in schools, so out in the corridors, out in the playfield, they are being monitored by the police. That shows those children will have that ability to learn that, hey, there are consequences outside. When they come into the class now, that police figure might be there, the guard might be there. So we have to now come in, do they respect the teachers? Because remember, the teachers are the ones now have to bring in that discipline within the classroom session. And you know, even if you're outside the classes, you can go in your own little groups. But when you come in a closed room, if it's overcrowded, if you have problems learning sometimes those children get into mischief. You see, some of the problems we have also is we have to recognize that not all children are equal. We come from not a level playing field. I can come from a home in a comfortable environment, going in an air-conditioned car, having meals, having books, having lessons. Another child struggling with poverty, don't have the supervision at home, comes to class sometimes with baggage, and that child now, struggling to learn. So we have to recognize the unequal sort of upbringing these children have, and sometimes they may not be amenable to learning. They are hungry. So thank God we have the school feeding program. So sometimes we have to look at what's happening in the children's home that is coming into school. And I want to bring in an interesting study that years old. There was Dr. Daphne Phillips did a study, and she looked at violence in schools. And she chose certain schools, and she looked at violence. And what they found, the children, 40% were sexually abused. 30% said they had poverty, or what you call, in terms of you don't have that sustainability home. 15% said you were physically abused. Okay. Then you had 10% said they were 5% verbally abused and 10% neglected. So if you look at those violent kids, they are reflecting what happens in their homes. They're reflecting what happens in society. So for us to help those kids, we have to go into the homes. We have to go into the homes, and it's not any rocket science. There were cases where they looked at children in places where in certain parts of America where you had those homes, public housing, and children were violent, and they actually did something called an ACE score. And ACE is Adverse Childhood Experience, and it's 10 questions, and they asked. Are the parents divorced? Single parent, no father around? Is one parent jailed? Is parents using drug? Are they witnessing domestic violence, neglect, abuse? The same abuse we looked at, the 3 types. And what it was found, that if those children answer more than 4 of those things, they had a 70% more chance likelihood of being a victim or being a perpetrator of violence. Wow. So we could look in the homes of children. And see with social intervention, social workers go in there and say this child can get trouble and put the proper intervention in place.
Yeah. Now, looking into signs, would you say there are warning signs teachers and even parents should look out for before a child becomes violent or severely disruptive?
Well, the thing is, you have to look at children from earlier clock. I like to say we should be tracking children from kindergarten, from when they now enter these schools, to see what's happening with them. How are they interacting with other children? How are they socializing? Are they more aggressive? Are they having problems to learn from them? So for instance, if a child has dyslexia, that child will look at a P and it looks like a Q, look at a 6, it looks like a D. Somehow, whatever they are seeing out there doesn't imprint in their mind. Right. So if I'm sitting on the class and I am not learning, I might decide, let me disrupt the class because I am trying to hide my aggression. So therefore, you look from small, do they have a learning disability? Do they have, there's something called opposition defiant disorder, where some children are wired differently. Yeah? Their brains are wired where they just oppose authority, oppose teachers, oppose any sort of authority. So you have to look at those medical conditions. Right. That could cause that, as well as social conditions. So if you're looking at a child, from the tracking that child's behavior, is a child very aggressive and violent from small, that nature, something is amiss, something we are missing biological in that child development. Because remember, exposure to certain things in pregnancy could delay the prefrontal cortex in a child developing. So that child will have impulse control problems and could act out more. Mightn't be the child's fault, mightn't be a community fault, might be how that child's brain was developed because the maternal nourishment wasn't there, or certain exposure. So when you look at children, you have to see now, is that child somehow change in personality? So is that child now suddenly a quiet child getting very noisy? Another child may now be withdrawn, another child just staring into space. Another child may be writing things, you know, about hating people, etc. So you look at that changes in behavior, sleep patterns, eating patterns. The teacher will have to look at that child now, not fitting in, not interacting, sometimes being alone. And so you really have to look out for those children and their behavior changes and what they are doing. So it's really a task for teachers to be, you know, out there looking to see. I remember sometimes teachers are saying that, you know, the classes may be too overcrowded, and teachers need help. They need help. They have special ed teachers. They need assistant teachers. All these are ways that you could have people identifying children who we think may be on the borderline of having aggression and violence.
Now, would you say social media, online content, and peer influence affects students' behavioral in schools, and how would you say it affects it?
Oh, definitely so. You see, this is where the government always has to play catch up. So even though you had good ministers of education before, you had all these lovely reports, the world changed. Social media came on board. You find now we have a TikTok generation. We have a generation of children who concentration is not there. So with the TikTok generation, you find they're just going from one thing to another thing very quickly, and they lose their capacity and the ability to do deep reading, to do deep understanding. So therefore, a child now, they learn differently. And this is why certain places like Switzerland and I think it was Norway decided, let's now go back to some old reading like books. So remember, social media could affect these children in terms of their capacity to get deep learning, one. Two, it could also let them not to have face-to-face interactions with people, so they can't read emotions. So if they're telling you something, if they're insulting you, they can't really recognize you're being hurt because they have been losing that capacity, as well as pornography in children actually causes violence too. So studies have shown that. So children could just go online now and I think it was the Archbishop Gordon mentioned, I think in 2019, that even 8-year-olds could go and sometimes things just pop up. So the pornography linked to sexual violence and dehumanizing, you know, they look at a woman and they treat them in a certain manner. And again, all those are crimes, and domestic crimes could come about because of that. So you have those influence of social media, as well as sometimes the loss of human connectivity, which we are trying to say we have to get kids to be involved in community, involved in other activities, in your religious activities, so they will learn people, they will learn to empathize, because we are losing the capacity to empathize.
How important is mental health support and counseling within schools when addressing discipline problems? Can you share with us a bit on that?
Well, okay, so first you have to identify these kids. So if I know a child is disturbed and I want to pick it up early o'clock, I want to pick it up to when they now get into little kindergarten schools where you can have certain questionnaires to these children to know if something is going on in their homes that we should be involving the social worker. Because a child in school, you want to help that child, but when that child, remember, a child spends 8 hours in school. And if we could really get that child and nourish that child and nourish that child even with school, with meals, you find that child treated with love, learning that the culture in the school, the ethos in the school is different from outside, what's happening in my home, what's happening in the community. We have 8 hours where we could frame the minds of the children, give them love, give them attention, show them what's happening outside may not be necessarily the right thing. And by doing that, we now will be curbing future criminals, because what we will be doing is showing them what's happening out there. So it's really picking up these kids and seeing what's happening, because I may be reacting because what's happening to my home. I may be depressed, I may have post-traumatic stress, I may, anytime my alcoholic father comes home, my heart racing, anxiety. So when I come home, my emotions are dysregulated. So when I come out in school, I'm acting up. So we have to know the minute I come into that schoolyard, you're going to be treated with a different culture. Discipline has to be learned too, as well as consequences of action. That is why it's important to have the deans of discipline, in each school. Sometimes they're saying they may not have a quick appointment of persons. The principal is a driver of the culture in the school. Right. So we have to now look, we are going to now teach that child culturally. It's a different environment. I will learn to behave. I will leave everything outside, but we have to still go outside and see what's happening. Yeah. We have to still see if that child has trauma, that child has anxiety, that child has been molested at home, where we now have to take that child into some sort of therapy. And this is why the school, you remember there's the counselors in school, and sometimes there's the student support system, yeah, where we need to talk to these children to see what's happening. We need to pick it up. We need to see what's happening. We need to engage other stakeholders outside who could look after this child and make sure we could rescue that child from any sort of environment. So it's very important to have the assessment of these kids to see, yes, if some things like that is happening outside. If it's a social cause, and because, as I say, Philip's study did show poverty. You're coming to school, it will affect you. Yeah, you know, Ministry of Family and Social Services could go into that family and give them some sort of support. If it's sexual abuse, you have to remove that perpetrator from the home. You have to protect that child. So there are different elements that we have to get in, and sometimes we have to now teach that child. Also, we have to see, does the child have a learning disability? So we have to do the psychiatric assessment. Does the child have a conduct disorder? Or is this child manifesting aggression because the child is depressed and acting out instead of within?
Yeah. And on the flip side of things, what impact can repeated classroom disruptions have on students who are actually trying to learn or, be in that moment to really receive what the teachers may be teaching?
Oh yeah, well definitely. If it frustrates the teacher, it frustrates the others who are there to learn.
Right.
But then you see, we have to understand, these kids are troubled kids. These kids are kids who may have learning disabilities. These kids may be kids who learn that disruption and violence is the way to self-esteem, because this is what they learn. So sometimes, definitely, it will disrupt. And you see, if this continues, it will teach the other normal children in class who wants to learn, probably better we disrupt it too, because those people are getting away. This is why consequences are there, have to be implemented. Not necessarily, according to the infraction. Sometimes we might have to say, look, within the school environment, let's make that disruptive child go out and plant a little plot with the agriculture teacher. So part of his punishment is doing something productive for the school. Go and paint the school wall. So he's doing something productive for the school, knowing it's a form of punishment, community service, but you're doing something for the school and even the little environments around this in school. So these are things where we have to show children who are there to study, hey, we study, but we also play, but we will also get support from teachers and from our counselors in school.
Yeah. And in terms of parents playing a role, what role do you think parents should play in helping to reinforce discipline and emotional regulation outside of the classroom?
Well, you see, a child's first mentor, as a parent, it's a privilege to be a parent, and plenty of people don't realize that. They have children, and they don't realize we give the children the blueprint how to be adults in the future. Right. So parenting, the home, that's the first place where children have to learn how to manage things properly. But look at the difficulty. The government has known that, previous government has known that. That is why they have implemented parenting classes within the Ministry of Family and Social Development.
Yeah.
But how could you ask a single parent who's struggling to make money, who sometimes reaching home late, children unattended, so the big one looking at the second one, you call that latchkey kids, where the big one just have to look at the smaller siblings, and sometimes they go out in the block and they get bad influence. So how could we teach a mother who says, Doc, I do have money to put food on the table, I do have money to pay passage to come to the ministry to learn parenting skills. Right. So somehow we have the things in paper, but we're not reaching. And then another thing too, we have to now reach out to those parents. So sometimes what I'm saying, if the parents are failing, if we want to save society and save the community and save Trinidad as a whole, the school has to pick up the slack of the home. Yes, we try to get the parents involved, but some parents cannot afford to all the frills that we would want all the time. Some parents, after a hard day's work, they don't have the energy. So sometimes regrettably, we have always talked about having after-school classes, having, so if a parent is at work till 5 or 4, we have people there could be mentoring these kids in school. All these are things we have discussed before. We have to implement it.
Mm-hmm. And do you think at this time schools can create safer and more supportive environments without relying solely on punishments?
Yes, definitely. We need to do that because you find that if you just go without punishment and you put children who are delinquent children with delinquent children and you put them together, that will mushroom the delinquency. So sometimes, yes, people will say, let's separate these children, let's put them in a boot camp, let's do something with them that get them out to save the others. Now, it depends on the infraction. If if a child is aggressive and violent and I am scared for the other children being damaged, yes, you have to remove some children. If you have other children with infractions, you should be able to create something within that environment that is not punitive, but it's making them know about the consequences. It's making them know, as I step into school, I am now responsible for my behavior. I'm responsible for respecting people. I have to respect the elders. I have to respect my teachers. And if I don't, I may get some penance, sit down and write something. I may get some community things within the school, go and help clean out the school after. So you have to put those things in place. So if I'm a child that's disturbing the school, I am still within the system, but I am doing something useful. I can look at it and say, look, I pay in that building. I feel a little nice if I could get those, you feel nice that you did something for the school too, in the back of your mind.
Yes. Now, thank you, Dr. Palmer. Lastly, just, this last question I really wanted to get. What advice would you give to students who may be struggling emotionally but do not know how to ask for help at this time?
Well, those children have to, I will say reach out for an auntie or an uncle or a priest or a pundit if you could. Because sometimes you reach out for somebody. Sometimes in school, you would have the guidance counselors. You could come into them. And you have to have trusted individuals that the child could relate to. And then I always tell children, sometimes you might be wallowing in your mind with depression, with, what's happening to me? I'm not doing good at education. So therefore, there's the number 1-800-COPE that I tell children you can call, because that line will guide children to Childline, etc. So sometimes even though you're feeling down, you're feeling in that way that it's hopeless, you're feeling that there's a doom descending on the world, because some kids now telling me, why should I study? There's big war in Russia and you don't know if the world will end, and you're hearing talks like that. So I said, no, you cannot go like that. Every day you live has to be somewhere where you're learning something new, you're trying to help somebody, and you will try to help your communities. You have to instill that, and you have to know there are persons out there who are willing to help them, but they have to reach out to it. 1-800-COPE is a line I tell children, call if you don't trust the system in the school. It's outside of the school.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Palmer, for coming on this morning and being a part of this morning's conversation. It was truly informative, insightful, and again, can you just give the number one more time? Because there may be someone looking on and they're thinking, I want that help, but I just don't know how to go about it. So it's important that they know that there is platforms and hotlines.
Yeah, so it's 1-800-COPE, whatever COPE stands for, anything. I don't remember it often, but 1-800-COPE. You go into that and they will help you cope with your problems. They will put you on, they will give you a listen here, they will give you some guidance, and it's something that I'm thinking if you reach out, there is hope, there are people out there who are willing to help you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We are about to take a short break, and when we come back, we have another engaging conversation, so stay with us.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Are you driven, ambitious, and ready to earn? WESN, the content capital, is expanding, and we're looking for dynamic media sales executives to join our team. Sell powerful advertising solutions across television, digital, and social media platforms, and help brands tell their story. If you have strong communication skills, a passion for sales, and the drive to succeed, join WESN today. Send your CV to marketing@wsncc.com or WhatsApp 6861662 and start building your future.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'd ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren. Welcome back. In today's Youth Spotlight segment, a local educator is helping young children across Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean build stronger reading skills from an early age. Teacher, reading tutor, and author Faith Arthur created the Basanta Early Childhood Reader after recognizing the growth need for accessible literacy support for beginner and struggling readers. Drawing from her hand-on experience in early childhood education, Arthur developed a resource designed to make reading engaging, confidence-building, and fun for children, while also supporting parents, teachers, and caregivers along the way. Joining me in studio is no other than Faith Arthur to share more on her book itself. Good morning, Faith.
Okay, so firstly, let me just say good morning and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Faith, tell us about yourself and what inspired that passion for writing and even education.
Okay, so my name is Faith and I am a teacher, a reading tutor, and I'm also the author of a book called the Basanta Early Childhood Reader.
Yes.
So I've always been passionate about writing. Ever since I was younger, I would tell myself, one day when you grow up, you're going to write your own books. I wasn't sure what books I would write, but surely when I got into education and working with children, I saw that need, and I decided, well, why not create a book in the field that I am in?
Definitely. Now, what first made you realize there was a serious need for it in terms of that stronger literacy support for young children?
I would say when I started teaching reading classes, I marketed as beginner classes for children that are now learning how to read, and also remedial classes for children that might be struggling to read. And so even though I marketed for beginner readers, I had so many children that were struggling with reading coming to me. And I thought, you know what? Why not use the methods that I was using while teaching and create a book that could help these children?
And can you tell us why is that age range, you know, that 3 to 4 year gap, so important in terms of developing reading skills?
I would say that's the age when children first come to school. They first begin preschool. However, reading does not begin at school. It begins at home. And as soon as your baby, your child could interact, you know, so reading begins by having your child identify things as letters, signs, colors. You take them to the grocery store. You don't just have them pick up their favorite snack, but you have them identify labels. Recently, and this is something I could testify on. So recently, my school, we had a field trip and we took our students on a trip. So the children were in the same bus as I was, and there was a child sitting across from me. And I observed, because it's in a teacher's nature to observe, right? I observed how engaged he was on that entire field trip. He wasn't just talking to his friends or his parents, but he was literally looking around. Mommy, look at the sign. And even if he couldn't read what was on the sign, he would spell out the words, he would look at the trucks, he would identify the colors. And whether parents realize this or not, this is early reading. So when a child comes into the classroom at preschool level, 3 to 4, they already have that comprehension development. They already are able to follow instructions. And so these things are what children build upon in terms of becoming strong reader. That language barrier, it is broken at an early age.
And you mentioned, you know, you took that experience from teaching to create this book. So how did your experience as a teacher and even reading teacher shape the content of the Basanta Early Childhood Reader book?
I would say through just classroom experience, you know, being able to see my methods work, how I would teach the children, just seeing the methods come to life. It's what truly inspired me to create this book using those very methods that would help the children.
Now, your book was designed to feel engaging and enjoyable for children. Why was that such an important approach in terms of, you know, creating a book this way?
Okay, so I think that goes for any of us, whether we are a child or an adult. We all want to feel engaged and have fun in whatever way, shape, or form when we're learning or whatever we're doing. And so just imagine a child. Children's whole nature is to have fun, right? And I think I took that into perspective. A lot of the times when teaching children to read, we don't want them to feel stressed, because if a child feels stressed, they're not going to want to learn, they're going to shut down. And I think that is what derived the way in which I constructed this book, for children to be able to, you know, just engage with it and have fun while learning.
Now, can you explain some of the teaching methods or techniques included in the book?
So in this book, I would have used a lot of phonics, which is absolutely the foundation for teaching reading, as well as repetition. So if we look in the contents of this book, there's a lot of repetition, because children learn best through repetition. The more that they see it, hear it, recognize it, is the more that it will stick for them. And, you know, just in the way in which words were constructed through word blending and the methods that I used, I would say that really helped in the development of this book.
Definitely. And can you say what makes this book different from other early childhood reading resources?
What would make this book different from other early childhood resources is just the fact that it is a tool that anyone could use.
Yeah.
So if you are a caregiver, a teacher, a grandmother, an auntie, I wanted to create something that anyone would be able to use. They wouldn't really have to go out and get lessons because it's sort of like a guide to help people.
That's so beautiful how you put it there. And you even mentioned wanting to help families, you know, who may not have access to private lessons. Why was accessibility such a major focus for you?
While I was beginning my reading classes in the earlier days, a lot of parents would come to me and they would say like, well, I can't really afford to bring my child to lessons right now, or whether they don't have the time to do it because they are working.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to create a resource that could go beyond the classroom.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And looking back at it, how rewarding has it been, you know, hearing that feedback from parents and teachers who are already seeing the improvements in children's reading ability?
It was really encouraging for me, especially as a young person and someone that is now coming into my author journey.
Yes.
It was definitely an encouraging feeling because, you know, to hear fellow teachers say that I've been using your book in my classroom to help struggling readers and it has helped so much and I've seen so much improvement, or parents would reach out to me and they would say things like, my child loved this book. He takes it everywhere and he feels as though he's playing a reading game when he's reading.
Wow, just wow. Were you surprised by the response the book received across Trinidad and Tobago and even the wider Caribbean?
Of course. So I remember posting my video overnight and I woke up, it was a Sunday, and I got ready to go to church. My phone was blowing up. When I put it on, I had a ton of calls, a ton of messages, but I was on my way to church, so I couldn't respond yet. So I went to church. After church, I put the phone on again. I was like, wow. I expected support, you know, and in the messages, I was seeing people from Trinidad and Tobago. But when I looked deeper, there were also other Caribbean islands that were messaging me. How could I get this book? Where is this book available? And yeah, so I just expected love in the country, but I experienced it in the wider Caribbean.
Yeah, just beautiful. Now, how important is parental involvement when helping children develop reading confidence going forward?
I love that question, and I'm so happy that I get to come on here and highlight this. Parental involvement in a child's life is one of the most crucial parts of a child's learning journey in school. You know, a lot of parents may say, well, I don't have the educational background to help my child or just do certain things. However, as long as you play that role where you are really involved in the child's life, whether that's just reinforcing what they learn in school when they get home, that is going to play a major role in a child's life because you're encouraging them. And when children feel encouraged, that builds their confidence and it just pushes them to do better and, you know.
Absolutely. And for parents, you know, whose children may be struggling with reading, what advice would you give them at this time?
I would say to stay patient, consistent, and repetition. I always talk about repetition because if you know a child, children learn best through repetition. You know, so just encourage them, build their confidence because that is what's going to push them to continue to want to learn, especially reading.
Now, when we look at the book itself, were there any challenges that came from the book, or was there even a favorite part of the book that you was like, yes, when you were doing it up, you said, yeah, this is definitely going to be something, yes, for the younger ones, but even persons like yourself could look at and utilize and use for them and be a part of that experience altogether. How was that process? Can you talk us through it?
I would say, yeah, there were difficulties in creating the book. It's just the ideas coming together and me wanting to build something intentional that would last and be able to make an impact for children, not just for children, but the adults that might be using this resource to teach their children. I would say one of my favorite parts in this book is the silent magic E page.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
The silent magic E rule. I love teaching the silent magic E rule. And
can you show the viewers again, just so, yes, because guys, it's definitely something you don't want to miss out when you have this book. Just by looking at it, you already can tell the engagement that's going to happen.
So I love this page in particular. When this idea came to me, it was just teaching children how easy it is to be able to recognize a rule like this. I know when I was teaching my reading classes, a lot of children, they didn't know this and they didn't know how to break it down. And so I used this method in class and it worked wonders with the children. And so I was like, yeah, definitely this is going to go in the book.
I love it. Even hearing you express, that passion for children, that passion for wanting to help, just make that experience for reading a better one is truly commendable. It is really, as a young person as well, looking at you. You can see other persons looking at you and saying, yeah, Mom, Dad, I don't mind being like this woman one day, being able to be a part of this, helping change things for other youths. Now, what are your hopes for the future? For the Basanta early childhood reader and for literacy development in the region?
My hopes for the future is basically for more parents to take the initiative of early reading. Right. You see, when you work with children that are older, let's say 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds that are struggling at that level still with reading, you come to a realization that a foundation somewhere along the way was not met. And that took the child throughout all these classes without being assessed properly. And so when children begin early reading, they don't have this problem. I think when children struggle with reading, they're going to struggle academically throughout their school journey. And I think my plan for this book is for it to become a demand in schools, a demand throughout schools in the Caribbean in general, a demand for institutions and stuff to be able to pick up this book, because it is a step-by-step guide on teaching children how to read.
Yeah, definitely. Now, where can persons get this book if, they're interested, they love what they're seeing so far, and they love how expressive you are and passionate about it. So it's really encouraging to want to support, and maybe they might know someone who this book can really help. Where can we get your book?
Okay, so this book can be purchased on Amazon. However, if you are not purchasing it on Amazon, you can purchase it through me by contacting 1-868-497-0803.
Thank you. So can you say that number again for persons looking on?
You can contact me at 1-868-497-0803 to purchase it, or you can purchase on Amazon.
And how would you say social media has helped push this book to go forth?
It has been the biggest help for me. I don't know if the book would have went the direction it would have went without social media. Right. Social media is really, really important for businesses these days. Yeah. I think if you are not on social media and you have a business, that your business will take a different turn. Right. Social media is really a benefit when it comes to running your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And now for that child who, they want to be a part of this experience in terms of even just starting up to better themselves to read, what advice would you, or how would you speak to them at this time?
I would say to don't be so hard on yourself. Reading is a journey. It is not something that you're going to develop overnight. And I think you would tell any child that practice makes perfect. We've all heard that as a child. And if they really have that support system at home, they're going to practice. They're going to want to become better, so yeah.
Absolutely. And lastly, just tell us again where we can get your book and that contact number.
So you can purchase my book on Amazon, or you can purchase directly through me at 1-868-497-0803.
Thank you so much, Faith, for coming on this morning and sharing your book with us. It truly is an honor to be a part of this experience, and it's a journey that, as you said, you're starting this author journey, and I can't wait to see how much more you blossom into it and, really impact the educational literacy system where children feel like learning is fun again, and it's not too much of a task or even a struggle. And so no one should be saying, oh my gosh, no, not this again. They should now have that excitement, that thrill to go towards reading or learning in general. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with us to be a part of the experience with you.
And thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure being on here this morning.
Absolutely. Guys, as we wrap up today's show, we hope that everyone that came on, you were able to take something from them. You take away something that can impact your life moving forward. So don't just think about what may happen in the past, but look at how you can make that change and that difference today. As I always say, stay informed, stay safe, stay positive. Up next, we do have Sean Michael Small at 8 with Talking Points, so you'd want to come back for that. And I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye.
WESN.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really.